For backstory, I work as a bush pilot delivering mail, cargo, and passengers in the backcountry of Alaska. My girlfriend and I have both lived in Alaska our entire lives and went to elementary, middle, and high school together. I asked my girlfriend out a year after high school when she was going to college locally, and I was in flight training. We have been dating for 7 years and have been talking about marriage. We learned that we had a mutual interest in each other for many years and had found the right time to start dating. Our families consider each other family friends. For my job, after a few years of flight instructing, I have been working for a locally operated charter float plane service. Alaska has a distinct lack of road infrastructure, and our job is very important in connecting the state. My job is considered relatively dangerous. Being an air taxi pilot in Alaska has about double the fatal accident rate compared to the rest of the country. However, I work at a very safe operation. It is made very clear by my boss, who has 50 years of experience flying in Alaska, that the pilot makes the final decision to fly. I am very safe and exhibit proper aeronautical decision-making procedures. 2 nights ago, my girlfriend told me she needed to talk to me while we were watching television. I asked what was up, and she told me she has been living stressed out every day that I wouldn't come home. This took me by absolute surprise. I asked how long she has felt this way, and she told me she has been living stressed every day since I got hired at the place where I work. I had no clue she felt this way, and we both had a very emotional moment. She told me that she was thinking about ending things because she couldn't handle getting a call that I was overdue and had crashed somewhere in the mountains. She referred to the 2 friends I had lost since doing this work. She said it would be too devastating, and the stress has been impacting her work and personal life. I had absolutely no idea she felt this way and didn't even know how to respond. I was devastated. I asked how breaking up would be another form of losing me, but she insisted that we would still be friends and very close, but just not be committed to each other. I also mentioned that I would eventually be going to the airlines, which is much safer, and how safe my job actually is, but she wasn't having it. I am completely heartbroken. The next morning, she basically gave me an ultimatum, that I get a flying job at a safer operation, or we will separate. She said that it pains her to do this, but she can't continue living every day scared that I won't come home. I'm considering sending my resume out to other places and have the flight hours and experience to do so. But I really like my job and am very good friends with everyone there. I understand that her life is being impacted by this, but I don't know how to get the point across that I am safe and she doesn't need to worry. I have no idea how to handle this or what to say to convince her that my job is safe. I don't want to lose her. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I am in a dangerous line of work too, and we take precautions and risk assessments at every level, no matter the scope of work. During training, I would say 95% of it consisted of survival and rescue. But despite all the measures, I know that there is a pretty good chance this could be my last. Just like in your line of work, the difference between life and death is a few seconds. I can't imagine having a partner in those circumstances, knowing all too well that there is a way higher than normal chance that every trip could be the last. Your partner's concern is valid. You just need to decide what you value more. Comment 2. I very rarely recommend breaking up, but I recommend it for you. Judging from your comments, she is not the love of your life. Your reaction tells me so. You are so fixed on your job, the job that most reasonable women would feel stressed about. Her reaction is completely reasonable, and if you wanted to keep her as priority number 1, you would be willing to agree to a clear deadline, say 1 year, until which you are in another industry or a much safer job. I wish for her to find a man who is head over heels for her, and I wish for you to find a woman you are equally in love with. This is not it. Now for the update. A couple weeks after the job ultimatum, I was in a tough spot. I sent out resumes to regional airlines, but didn't get a single response. I continued flying my regular routes and tried to keep things normal. I was just going through the motions. But Olivia, she became more and more distant, almost like she wasn't there in our own home. During meals, she was often glued to her phone. I could have been talking to a wall, and probably got more of a response. It was super frustrating. One day, while sitting in my pilot lounge, I overheard two coworkers talking about a recent crash. It was one of those moments where everything goes quiet and you just focus on the conversation. The incident involved a pilot I knew. We weren't best buddies or anything, but we'd crossed paths a few times. My heart sank. I could only imagine how this was hitting Olivia, so I decided to bring up her concerns directly. We went to our favorite diner for dinner, hoping the familiar vibe would make it easier to talk. She seemed distracted, scrolling through social media instead of chatting. I mentioned the crash, but she quickly cut me off, saying she didn't want to hear about it. A week later, she suggested we visit her parents for the weekend to clear the air. I was all for it, honestly. I thought being around family might help us reconnect. During dinner at her parents' house, her dad asked about our future plans. This was the first time I'd felt any kind of normalcy in weeks, so I was ready to talk. Olivia's mom even chimed in, saying she hoped we would get engaged soon. I could see Olivia's face change at those words, but I was just happy to see my future in-laws so supportive. After dinner, Olivia stepped outside to take a call, leaving me alone with her family. I was just about to tell them how I might be switching jobs when I overheard her talking about how she was tired of waiting and needed to make a decision. My heart dropped. I decided to confront her when she came back in, asking who she was talking to. She snapped back, saying it was none of my business and to stop being so paranoid. We argued briefly before she stormed off to her childhood bedroom. Back at home, I found an unopened letter from a regional airline offering me an interview. I felt like I hit the jackpot. I excitedly shared the news with Olivia, hoping it would ease her worries. I figured this was the fix for all our problems, but she just nodded and said she was happy for me. A few days later, I saw Olivia with a suitcase in the hallway, ready to leave. She explained that she needed space to think, suggesting a temporary separation. I felt like I got punched in the gut. I reluctantly helped her pack, feeling a sense of dread as I put her things in the car. While loading the car, I noticed a new travel bag with a tag from a nearby hotel. I confronted her about it, and she said it was just a precaution. A precaution? For what? After she left, I threw myself into work, trying to ignore the situation. I figured if I kept busy, I wouldn't have to think about how messed up everything was. A week later, I got a call from a mutual friend saying Olivia had been seen with another guy. The friend mentioned it casually, like it wasn't a big deal. I felt a wave of disbelief. I chose to focus on my upcoming interview and prepared hard. On the day of the interview, I got a text from Olivia saying she was thinking about everything. That was it. Just a vague text that left me feeling more confused than ever. I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. I just went on with my day and did the interview. So that's where I'm at, just trying to focus on this new opportunity and hoping I get the job. To answer a few questions, Olivia has known about my profession since we started dating. She has always been supportive, even after the loss of my friends in the field. The incident involving the pilot I knew was separate from my job. I didn't know him well, so it didn't affect my work directly. The regional airline interview is for a safer flying position with more structured routes. The friend who informed me about Olivia was aware of our issues. Olivia's vague text did not clarify her feelings, leaving me confused. I'm focused on the future, hoping for a positive change. Am I the idiot for encouraging my husband to take a work trip and now suspecting he's cheating on me? Am I the idiot for encouraging my husband to take a work trip and now suspecting him of cheating? My husband, 31 years old, and I, 30 years old, have been together for 7 years, married for 5. We have 2 beautiful daughters, 4 and 2 years old, and another child on the way. There are not enough good things to say about my husband. I still get butterflies in my stomach whenever I look at him. The girls absolutely adore him. He has done very well in his career. I will preface this by saying that my husband doesn't travel for work much. It's usually 3 days to a week of travel every 3 to 4 months. The first pregnancy was very turbulent, and 4 months in, he went on a week-long work trip, and there was a miscarriage scare while he was gone. Fortunately, everything was fine and worked out in the end. but he promised that he would never travel for work while I was pregnant again. He has stayed true to his promise, and multiple promotions throughout the years have allowed him to choose his own business trip schedules. This morning, my husband heard a text notification on his phone and asked me to read the text to him while he was getting ready in another room. He had a pros and cons list about a business trip open in his notes app. I read the list, and it said possible promotion as one of the pros and break promise as one of the cons. He hadn't mentioned any upcoming trip or promotion, so I asked him about it, and he told me that he is responsible for presenting the final outcome of a project he is leading to company management in a few weeks. And his boss has unofficially told him that he is currently on the verge of a promotion and a huge raise, and this presentation will determine if he gets it. The only kicker is he has to take a 3-hour flight to get to the city where he will be presenting, so he has already decided that he isn't going to go. He explained that he has no intentions of breaking his promise to me, and he is confident that he will get the promotion eventually, either way, in a few months, if not now. I told him that I think he should go, and we should at least talk before he officially declines going on the trip. He agreed to talk about it after he got home from work. I searched up the estimated salary for someone one level above my husband, and it is a little over double what he currently makes, which is already a lot. Even ignoring money, the boost in his position will be great for his career and his goal of becoming an executive one day. I know that he doesn't break his promises and always keeps his word, but I want him to go. How do I convince him that he should go on this 4-day business trip and get rewarded with something he has worked so hard for and very much deserves, and prioritize it over a promise he made to me in a worst-case scenario? Now for an update. We spoke, and he does feel somewhat guilty about not being around when we had the scare. I told him that I can have my mom stay with me and the kids for the week, and he can go do his presentation knowing that I am not alone, and he agreed. My mom also jumped at the possibility of spending the week with her grandbabies and me, so all will work out on that front. I won't get into specifics about his career, but he has set up some interviews at companies in the area for the equivalent of one level above his current position and hopes to compare offers from other companies and his current one and then make a decision in the coming weeks. Thank you all for the advice. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. With all of the women on here complaining about guys breaking promises, making promises they don't intend to keep, flirting with other women, flirting with other men, it sure is refreshing to hear a complaint about a guy who refuses to break his promise. Let's first acknowledge how lucky you are. Now that we've done that, you have to speak his language. Logic. Put some numbers together with regard to the new salary and how that would affect both his ability to retire earlier and take the family on better vacations or whatever his hot buttons are. Then, head over to the Excel subreddit and ask someone there to create a spreadsheet for you, showing not only the difference today, but how the extra money will compound in your family's favor over time. Comment 2. I'm going to be the odd one out. Let him skip this trip and be pregnant with you. This isn't a "you're pregnant" thing. This is a "we're baking a family in your belly" thing. Please don't make him feel bad for prioritizing you and your baby over a job. Now for the update. The hubby came back from his business trip a few days ago. He wasn't acting like himself. I tried to brush it off like maybe it's just the whole post-trip stress thing. I mean, I get it. You go away and things are a little chaotic when you get back. But this felt different. We had a birthday party for our oldest daughter at this local community center. She had a blast, but I couldn't shake off how distant he was. He spent most of the party on his phone, just scrolling and texting. I kept trying to get him to engage with our daughters, but it was like talking to a brick wall. After the party, he got a call from some unknown number. Just stepped outside to take it. I was left inside, confused. I didn't want to be that wife, the one who's always questioning everything, but this was getting weird. When he came back inside, he was even more withdrawn. I tried to talk about our plans for a family outing the next weekend, and he was like, "We'll see," and changed the subject. A few days after that, he left his laptop open while he was in the shower. I know, you shouldn't snoop. But I couldn't help it. I glanced at the screen and saw all these emails from a different company. One of them had a meeting scheduled with a recruiter for that evening. I freaked out a little. I didn't want to confront him right then and there, so I waited until he came out of the shower. He noticed me looking at the screen, and you should have seen his face. He looked so flustered and quickly closed the laptop. I asked him about the meeting, and he was like, "It's nothing important." I pressed him for details, but he just said he was tired and didn't want to deal with it. That night, I found him texting again after we went to bed. I asked who he was messaging, and he said it was work-related. I just gave up at that point, thinking maybe I was overreacting. The next day, I thought I'd surprise him with lunch. I showed up at his office with our daughters, thinking maybe this will lift his spirits. But when I arrived, I saw him having lunch with this woman from his office. She was laughing, leaning in close, and they just looked so comfortable. I couldn't take it. I left quietly, not wanting to cause a scene in front of our daughters. At home, I tried to talk to him about the lunch. He was like, "It's just a coworker, nothing to worry about." A few days later, he got this text that made him anxious. He left abruptly, saying he had a work emergency. That evening, he came back late, claiming he was stuck in a meeting. I found a receipt in his pocket for dinner at a fancy restaurant. When I asked him about it, he said it was a work dinner. The next week, he got invited to this work retreat. He mentioned it casually, but I could tell something was off. During the retreat, I learned he would be staying overnight at a hotel. He insisted it was all for work, and he needed to focus. I knew something was up. A week later, I caught him texting that same unknown number again. When I confronted him about it, he said it was just work-related messages. I decided to look into the phone records later. I just can't shake off the feeling that something is really wrong. Edit. He had received a text from an unknown number about a work emergency, which led him to leave. After looking into the phone records, I found out it was the same number he'd texted multiple times. I called it from my phone, and a woman answered. I didn't say a word. Am I the idiot for telling my sister her new boyfriend is my abusive ex-boss and she needs to wake up? Am I the idiot for quitting my job because of my rude boss and now my sister is dating him? Last summer, I, a 22-year-old female, left my waitressing job after a year. My main reason for leaving was my boss, a 38-year-old male who I found incredibly difficult to get along with. He was always in a bad mood and would be openly rude and disparaging towards me. Despite it being his responsibility to train me, he would tell me to figure it out myself before swooping in to point out all the things I did wrong. He would often keep me behind at the end of the shift to berate me further in private, giving me warnings over things like not volunteering to work extra hours, not wiping down something well enough, or for not telling him I was going to the restroom during my shifts. I would stay strong through this, then break down into tears in my car. If ever my smile slipped at work and I allowed myself to be openly irritated for a moment, he would laugh and ask me if I was hungry. Last but not least, he would sit in the back room on his phone while I worked alone during the busiest parts of the day, before telling me off afterwards for not asking for help. From all that, I hope you can get an idea of how he was. I just felt so picked on, and it was really difficult to handle. I ended up suffering a panic attack after work one day. My boyfriend, a 23-year-old male, was there, and after helping me through it, was horrified after I finally explained to him just how awful it was at work. He strongly encouraged me to leave and to report my boss, and I did both. However, the company rallied around my boss because he had been there so long and was a valued team member, and nothing was done at all. In any case, I was away from that environment and started repairing my mental health. I got a new job that is far better suited to me and with a boss I really like. About 3 weeks ago, my sister, a 27-year-old female, asked my boyfriend and me if we wanted to go for a drink and meet a new guy she was dating. She warned me he was a little older, but that he was really sweet and to give him a chance. My boyfriend couldn't make it, so I went alone and was absolutely blindsided to see the man my sister was dating was my old boss. He laughed at my shocked face, and it soon became clear my sister knew. They had first met at a bar, and a few dates in, she had shown him a family photo and he had pointed me out. This was weeks before we met up. The evening was horrible. I could feel myself getting weirdly panicked the entire time, as my sister gushed over what a great guy he was and how I should try to see him in a different light now. My old boss just smirked and made backhanded comments about me, such as picking up a wine glass and saying, "See, this is how you're meant to clean them." I know I should have stood up for myself, but just being in his presence again made me withdraw so much. What hurts most is I used to vent and confide in my sister about my old boss, and she would agree that he sounded awful. I got home and called my boyfriend, and he was so shocked. My sister sent a text saying she thought it had gone well, and that my old boss said it was nice to see me. We haven't spoken much since. This whole thing makes me not want to be around my sister, for fear of seeing him, and also because I feel hurt that she would knowingly date someone who made my life so miserable. However, I obviously still love her. Should I just try to deal with it for her sake? Am I being bitter and can't see it? I think I just need some external opinions on this. How can I navigate this mess? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your sister knew exactly who this was and how you felt about him, and intentionally hid it from you, including not warning you when she invited you out. She deliberately hurt you. Did she say anything in your defense as he was berating you throughout the evening? Your sister is a real piece of work. Comment 2. Your old boss is a bully, and so is your sister. Who on earth surprises their sibling that they are dating someone who traumatized them into panic attacks? Forget your sister. Forget that guy. They deserve each other. Now for the update. My sister invited me to her birthday party at a local bowling alley about 3 weeks after the awkward dinner. I was surprised but decided to go, hoping to make things better. My sister was excited and said her new boyfriend would be there. I got to the bowling alley, and it was all decked out with balloons and a big cake in the corner. I saw my sister chatting with her boyfriend, who was laughing a lot with a group of friends. As I got closer, I thought her boyfriend looked familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. I said hi to her and then locked eyes with him. It was my old boss. My sister introduced him as Mark, and I managed to smile, feeling the tension rising. Throughout the night, Mark kept telling jokes about old restaurant stories, and I laughed along to keep things chill. My sister seemed totally unaware of the awkwardness, just enjoying the party while I felt uncomfortable. While bowling, Mark accidentally bumped into me, spilling soda on my shirt. He laughed it off, but I felt everyone staring at us, even my sister. I made an excuse to go to the bathroom to clean up, splashing water on my shirt. In the bathroom, I overheard 2 of my sister's friends gossiping about Mark and how awesome he was. They said he was a rising star in the restaurant biz, which made me uneasy. I went back to find Mark and my sister deep in conversation, totally ignoring me. Later, when it was time for cake, my sister asked me to take a picture of her and Mark. I snapped a few shots, and Mark put his arm around her, looking super pleased with himself. As I took the last photo, I noticed a couple behind them whispering and pointing at Mark. I casually asked one of my sister's friends about the whispers. She told me that Mark had a rep for being difficult, which made me raise an eyebrow. My sister cut the cake, and Mark made a toast, thanking everyone for being there. After cake, my sister got a text from their mutual friend, asking if she knew about Mark's past. She showed me the text, which said he had problematic behavior at work. As the night went on, I noticed Mark getting more relaxed, making snarky comments about other guests. At one point, he joked about a friend's bowling score, which didn't land and made everyone uncomfortable. My sister laughed, but I could see her friends were not feeling it. By the end of the night, my sister was clearly into him, and I struggled with the urge to warn her. I decided to leave early, feeling overwhelmed, and said my goodbyes without bringing up my worries. The next day, my sister called to thank me for coming and said Mark wanted to take her on a weekend trip. Just as I was about to hang up, my sister casually said she was thinking of moving in with Mark. A few days later, I got a message from a mutual acquaintance saying Mark had a history of trouble with former employees. As the days went by, I noticed my sister getting more serious about Mark. To answer a few questions, my boyfriend was aware of my old boss's presence at my sister's birthday party, as I called him to share my feelings beforehand. He offered to come with me, but I thought it would be better to face it on my own. I appreciate that my sister seems happy with Mark, but I worry about potential future conflicts. Unfortunately, my sister hasn't disclosed many details about their relationship, making me anxious about what I might not know. I haven't mentioned the new information about Mark to my sister yet, but I plan to do so soon. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.